Hey everybody. So I want to get into this video here talking about this bad weather coming in from the hurricane up in Florida. And it's probably going to bring some wind with it. Obviously, it's already raining. There's like a good chance it's going to be, a lot of us are going to be under flood watch, flood warnings, and it's probably some wind advisories as this hurricane makes its way up here. So I want to really get into just talking about a few different things. I don't have notes here. I have a long drive here to Sweetwater out to a house for a final walkthrough for real estate. So I was like, well, why not get on here and make this video? And I've actually been thinking on it for like 10 minutes. Because I'll be honest, I don't like talking about things that I'm not like 100% like what I would feel as an expert at. And I'm not on insurance, right? I do know how to navigate myself around. I basically am kind of put myself in a position where I'm not really going to make mistakes, but I also have not done enough, have not seen enough, not enough experience, right? Less than a year to where I'm like, boom, somebody can call me and ask me, and I can just spit it off. Now, I'm probably going to know 80% of most people's questions and can answer them. But I was a little uncomfortable. I was like, you know what? I need to put myself out there. I just need to do it, right? Because what I'm going to say and the things I'm going to talk about here is just, it's not the details, right? It's just the important stuff of if something does happen. So, and the good news, like for me and my brokerage, is you have access to all of my real estate contacts if something does happen, such as a tree falls down, right? Well, you got access to my tree cutters, right? If you're doing insurance with me, you have access if something happens to the roof, right? A lot of times tree falls, roof damage, or there's just roof damage from the wind, knocking shingles off. You have access to all of our roofers. I also have a good friend who kind of specializes in helping people with claims. All sorts of, especially exterior claims, right? If you've got something happen, these insurance companies, these carriers, right? They're not in the business of giving you money. They're in the business of collecting money. So I have a friend who basically has been doing it for several years, specializes in fighting on your behalf against these insurance companies, knows all the ins and outs, so you have access to that. Right, so if something does happen, right, we have a lot of resources that can help people and alleviate the pain of it, because I'll be honest, if you got to use insurance, you're in a sucky situation anyways. There's nothing usually positive. You've got to call your insurance company and to file a claim. Usually it's a pretty terrible situation, usually both physically and emotionally there. So what I want to talk about is some things, if something does happen, right, you need to make sure you call your carrier immediately, right? Also, I would start talking to friends or family, right? Especially, let's just give an example of a tree falling on the house, but not a decent amount of damage, but not crazy, right? There's things that your insurance company in the fine print likely is going to make you to do, right? So since a tree falls on, now you've got a hole in the roof, right? There's things that you need to do to help prevent further damage. And if you don't do these things, such as trying to tarp something, in reasonable things, and you can bring out people to do this, and they'll eventually reimburse them and pay for all that. But such as helping to prevent further damage, in your fine print, they can get away with not paying for things, right? So all of a sudden, you had some shingles got lifted off because of wind, and you've got your roof that's now leaking and active water's getting in it. If you're not like actively doing something to kind of help that situation, and it's leaking in the floor and it's all on the floor, right? You don't got buckets down and trying to find a tarp to put over it, you could actually wind up in a pretty rough position with these insurance companies because you didn't do your job in kind of helping that situation. So that's kind of one scenario there, and I'll say that's probably what most of the stuff when you're talking about rain and wind, usually that's what it's going to be. Shingles getting lifted off, a tree, something falling on the home, or even a car, right? Even a car, something falling on the car. But yeah, immediately I would call your insurance person and talk to them. I would tell you, don't immediately file like a claim unless it's obvious, right? Where we're talking, thousands and thousands of dollars of damage. But if it's something small, right, just a little bit of damage, you really need to look at how much is that going to cost. What's a good estimate there? Does it make more sense to pay out of pocket for something than to file a claim? And a quick example is, you know, a tree falls over, it clips the gutter, right? You know, hangs the gutter, but there's really no other damage, right? It's probably going to be cheaper for you to kind of cut that tree up, put a new gutter back up, than to file a claim that's going to cost you $1,000 deductible anyways. And then you have a claim on your record. And I am not exaggerating whenever I say this. We quote so many people. Like, if I could write the business for people that allow me to quote, our insurance company would be doing fantastic. The problem is, these insurance companies right now are just crazy strict on what they're wanting to write for all kinds of reasons. For one, your background as an insurer, right? How many claims you filed? What was the claim filed? How old's the house? How old's the car? What's your credit score? What's the risk? And a lot of times they're coming back and just saying no if you have previous claims. Or they're saying no, we won't do their home unless they do their home and auto because they have a claim. I've seen this. This just happened the other day. So there's all kinds of things you really look at filing a claim. And I'm not saying don't lose thousands of dollars. You have insurance for a reason, but you really have to calculate the risk reward because I get calls probably at this point weekly. Hey, Steve, I need to shop my quote. My insurance company's not renewing me for next year. Have a friend, same thing in auto. They're literally not renewing them in like a month. They just got the notice, so now they're having to shop. And of course, they're shopping. Well, guess what? Their rates, because of the claims, are up everywhere else. So they're essentially like almost paying double. When we start calculating that over the course of years, and usually it takes 3 to 5 years for these claims to kind of fall off. And ultimately, like, they don't ever really fall off. They fall off is probably what I can see, but these carriers, right, they're always going to know it. You're always going to be a high risk to them. So they're always going to probably quote you a little high because they kind of like, is it really worth it, right? Because these carriers, they're going to give the benefits and the low cost to people who really have little to no claim records on file. And it's in an area and the type of house or car and the type of profile that they're wanting to write. And I've seen houses, I've even seen houses that's had, that our real estate clients are buying, and there was a previous water claim. Obviously this rain, there's a previous water claim. Well, guess what the carriers are doing? Oh, previous water claim has nothing to do with our client buying the house. This is on the seller, or maybe even a previous seller. They won't even offer a quote. Won't even quote it because they think there's a big risk of something else happening there for a water issue. And again, they want no part of that. I've seen it. I literally see it firsthand. So as always, if you got questions on this stuff, let us know. And ultimately, right, always there's people for this, like safety's a big thing. And with this flood stuff coming in, now if you are in a FEMA flood zone and you own a home and you have a mortgage, your lender is going to require you to have flood insurance. If you are not in a flood zone, you are not required to have flood insurance. However, some people are still in an area that, can get a crazy flood, right? I don't remember how many years ago we had a couple crazy rainstorms come by and some stuff flooded that should have never flooded. Like, we've all seen the pictures of like Dollywood, right? Dollywood and like Sevierville up there, like flooding. You probably have those people aren't in a flood zone, so they may not even have flood insurance. But all that water, right? If it's exterior water from rain and that gets into your house and you don't have flood insurance, insurance doesn't cover you. So that's another thing. Is it worth kind of looking into? And I know it's nothing that I push on people or even recommend. Usually don't even talk about it, but I think this rain, this scenario, this hurricane might bring it up, right? If water kind of gets in, call it really groundwater coming into your house, for whatever reason. And a quick one, I remember, being from Coalfield, there a couple years ago, the bridge blocked up, and all of a sudden the water went out and went into, did damage to people's homes that otherwise was not in any type of flood zone. But it's like a freak thing of trees blocking the flow of the creek at the bridge because they got stopped up. Therefore, that water naturally just found another route and went around it because it couldn't really get through it at a fast enough pace. So it's freakish things like that. And if you don't have it, right, guys, just because you have insurance on your home, your insurance is going to say what is covered and what is not covered in that fine print. So I would encourage you to call your insurance. Hey, what if this happens? Am I covered? And I'll be honest, in that huge document, right? Do I know every line of every policy? No. But what I would do for any of our carriers, hey, listen, is this covered? Yeah, let me call the carrier. Hey, all right, pull up this policy. Just want to make sure this scenario covered to make sure you're covered. Because you got to make sure during these times, and this is when carriers, right, when these natural disasters come through, they hate it. because again, this is where they get their losses at. This is why insurance has been jacked up the last couple of years as far as your rates going up, is really a lot to do with natural disasters, a lot to do with anything that causes damage really over like $1 billion. There's been, I know I did a video, it's probably a couple months ago now, and don't hold me to this, it was something like in the last 3 years, there's been like 24 natural disasters that caused over $1 billion in damage, whereas in the last 5 years, there's only been like 28 or something. So it's just saying, like, it's crazy the amount of you know, storms and stuff like that is caused. And then again, these carriers are for-profit carriers. They have to make money, so when they pay out claims, you know, they have to make sure they're intaking enough money that pays for that, and the employees and the sales reps and the people in the field, all that. If not, you know, they got to change their rates, which is why you see some people pulling out of Florida, pulling out of California, if you've watched the news. But the big thing here is immediately, like, start being proactive if something does happen. Start taking action. Get on the phone with your insurance company. Be aware it's probably going to be long waits because there's probably going to be things that are happening and people that are calling in. And then, you know, if there's something there, you know, water's coming in or something like that, and call me, right? I can see you some roofers, I can see some tree people, right, that'll get out there and help you. And these people are going to be out here working, first responders, in this, and hopefully we don't get, you know, we just get some rain, it's no big deal. But I just thought it's super important to kind of give everybody a heads up on you know, just a few things to be prepared for if and when something does happen. As always, guys, questions, feel free to holler. See ya.